I'm Christopher Maloney. I will be your talking head today. This is Mia Science. I have a lot of different science classes that I teach, but they follow the similar format because we're trying to create consistency within science, and I'm constantly experimenting on improving that format. Unless we change the way we are taking roll, it is currently a here, here, here thing. I never do that. I tend to ask you specific questions, things related to the class that we're going to take. It takes a little longer. Sometimes it takes a lot longer if I ask questions like, how are you doing? But I find that it's much more interesting for you if we're actually learning about your fellow students, and it's much more interesting for me, and it's not a waste of time anymore. It becomes something that's part of the class. Most of you are artists, so you don't think of science as being very important to you. And the reality is I try to make it very relevant to you. I want to make sure that you feel like, hey, I'm in class. This is not a waste of my time, even though I want to become an artist. In my class, there's going to be discipline, but it's based on the idea that we're all adults. We're all going to treat each other like adults. And one of the things that I'm going to focus on is making sure that you're taking notes every day in class, because that's how you actually retain information. It's not really interesting to have me give a lecture and then you don't remember any of it. There may be only a few things from that lecture you need, but I want to make sure you retain it. We're going to cover the material in the class. I'll talk about each class individually as we go through it. And then I'll tell you a bit about my story about why I'm doing what I'm doing. I think it's great to give ourselves some context here. You're cultural creatives as a group. You have a growing population. You're very essential to the society as a whole, and you're that part of the society that can actually change the society. Let's focus on notes right now. So there is a standard way to do notes. For every A, there's a B. For every one, there's a two. There's an outline format that standard note taking follows. This is what that outline format looks like. You can probably find this all over the web. It's very standard. It's just ideas for every A, there's a B, for every one, there's a two, and you start with Roman numerals and you go down into it. We'll go more into this in class. But the science shows that the notes that are just done that way people don't retain that very well. So when you do your notes, I'd like you to do more lines going out, lines connecting different things, at least engaging your notes rather than just taking them. The idea is to make your notes individualized for you. Here are some mind maps that I've done. Basically, I'm attaching things, I have ideas that I'm putting together, but I'm also drawing little pictures to help me remember the material. I think you can get a little crazy with this. This is a mind map that looks really busy to me, and I don't really retain this information. So realize there's kind of a nice middle ground of how many pictures and things you want to put on a page. But I want you to really think about your education as your creation rather than something that we're giving to you or forcing you to do. The critical thing about that is to also realize that people around you are in a similar situation. You are not alone. Many culturally creatives feel like they're alone in the world, and it's a delusion. You're actually surrounded by people in this school that are not exactly like you. Of course, you're unique, but are very similar to you and have very similar interests. You are not alone. Basic class format. We're going to talk about, there's going to be a presentation. That presentation is going to happen. You may actually be able to speak. You may not want to speak. If you don't want to speak, there's ways for us to work with you. We can actually have you turn in notes instead of speaking. But if you will speak to us, we want to hear from you. We want to see what you're doing. You are very, very bright. You're a genius in your own way. We want to see that. We want to have you participate every day in class once you feel comfortable doing that. So the way the class is set up, day one, we start taking notes, get on IC, the classroom. By midterm, you're going to give your presentation. I'm going to keep up to date on all the stuff that I give you. I tend to give you short stuff, but it will build up. There will be 20 or 30 of these things. And by the end of the semester, you will either be relaxed and caught up in my class, or you'll be freaking out because there's so much work that I've given you. It was very short, but if you didn't do it, it builds up. There are a whole bunch of tools that I use, but the basic things we want to do is get on Infinite Campus and learn how to use it initially. Thanks for coming. That's the lecture. Anybody have any questions, you can ask me in real time. Thanks.